I'm Connor Old and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And this week we're going to be looking at both these screenplay categories, which will be a lot of fun. But if you're new to the series, what I do every single week is I look at an Oscar category and I give my predictions for the 2020 Oscar nominations. But this is more than just an Oscar show. In the coming future, as soon as we get more into, I'm going to give my Golden Globes predictions. We're going to be talking about some other industry awards that, of course, impact the Oscars, things like PGAs, DGAs. Really, the ultimate goal of the show is to give you everything you need to know about the Oscar season. The past few weeks I've been doing sort of a topic with the video as well as my predictions, but as we get closer to the nominations, because we have a shorter year, I'm going to start grouping a couple of categories together. So that would sort of eliminate that extra category, because I don't want to make the videos so long. But I hope you understand in terms of now we just get more into the nitty-gritty of the details of these nominations, because I don't want to sort of give certain categories a short shrift. I really want to, what I think is the appeal of the show is that it really goes to a deep dive of each and every category. You're getting 30 minutes, 15 minutes of a really solid analysis of just one category and possible contenders and why certain films are in this instead of sort of a 2-second explanation. Jumping into it, what I also like to do at the top of the show is a rising and falling category. This is just has to do with movies that are either rising or falling, meaning that movies are either gaining momentum, so that will help their chances in terms of the Oscar race, or maybe falling out of the Oscar race, movies we thought that were into it, but now sort of out of it. Starting off with just the two movies that are coming up this weekend, and sort of a wider release being Frozen 2 and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I suspect, will have more Oscar nominations than Frozen, but maybe not. Actually, they may only have 2 each, actually. But The Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and Frozen 2 both did well at the box office. I would say, not surprisingly, Mr. Rogers showed his sort of box office strength, whether it be last year with Won't You Be My Neighbor, and Frozen 2, and of course, is coming off the massive hit that is Frozen 1. So that is notable. But another sort of rising movie is Richard Jewell. Sort of the very first reactions that have come out of this is a movie that has been unknown because no one had seen it, and sort of what I expected, sort of a solidly made, interesting thriller, but maybe doesn't have as many sort of political aspects. It's maybe something like American Sniper. You never want to sort of count Clint out. He's one of those guys that can just put in a late Oscar contender and surprise you. That being said, I'm not exactly sure Richard Jewell is the one this year, because it's coming out so late, and because other movies that have sort of had this similar reputation, something like Sully, did okay but didn't do great ultimately, because they're sort of just like, yeah, they're really well-made thrillers that you will enjoy, but they're not something incredibly transformative and maybe doesn't have the momentum of some of these other movies. Now jumping into the sort of Independent Spirit Awards section of this video, the nominations came out earlier last week, and I just want to talk about some movies that have sort of broke out from that award show, and then other movies that have been falling since that award show. Now it is notable to say that this is not the it's not the Independent Spirit Awards are not a great predictor of the Oscars. It's not like, oh, this is what exactly it's going to be. They are their own award show, and really I think their value is because there's so many great independent, critically acclaimed movies. Their value is in telling us which one is maybe more important, and if they're shedding a light on something that they like more than others, that could help its chances that I maybe had not considered before. Speaking of which, I would say Honey Boy is a movie that's coming out strong out of this award show. Excuse me. It got 2 nominations for Best Supporting Actor, and the Oscars Best Supporting Actor category, I think, is a little bit fraught right now. There could be sort of a surprise, whether it be someone like a Shia LaBeouf for Honey Boy. He also got in for Best Director. So this is some a very personal story to Shia LaBeouf, which always helps the chances, especially when it regards to campaign, which Shia LaBeouf has done. He's gone on The Ellen Show. He's got on Hot Ones, so he has been sort of going out and really trying to promote this movie, and it seems like Honey Boy may surprise come Oscars night. I'm not exactly sure if it will do well at Golden Globes. It could be sort of a Globes movie, and that will sort of build its momentum, maybe sort of a nocturnal animals kind of a situation. That being said, Honey Boy is coming strong out of this festival, so watch out for that. That's definitely rising in a lot of categories. Then in terms of the falling movies, a couple of movies that sort of didn't do as well as maybe I expected. First one being Waves. This one I expected not to do that well. I talked about it in my Oscar Bait Misses episode, where I talked about one of the movies that I just don't think is going to get a lot of recognition. And this was notable because, the main chance of this getting a nomination was always sort of seen as Sterling K. Brown. He didn't even get an Independent Spirit Award nomination. As a matter of fact, Waves only got one nomination. So, you know, this is a film that maybe should have gotten a lot of these nominations, and the fact that it didn't get any nominations, or one nomination, excuse me, at the Independent Spirit Awards, it shows that Waves is definitely going to most likely not get any nominations come Oscar night. Then another movie is Harriet. This is a movie that has been rising, right? It's been doing super well at the box office, really been holding well. The people who have seen it have been loving it in terms of the audience. It's got, I think, an A cinema score, but the critics have been mixed on it. And even someone like Cynthia Erivo, who was sort of seen as the maybe champion of this movie, didn't even get a Best Actress nomination. As a matter of fact, Harriet got no nominations at the Independent Spirit Awards. It maybe sort of fits a traditional mold, but it's still an independent film and a successful independent film. They didn't feel the need to reward that. So unfortunately right now, I think Harriet, despite the strong box office performance, may just not crack that award season love. So, like I said at the top of the show, we're not going to be going into more of the topics that I like to do, whether it be bold dark horse picks or clear frontrunners. Now I'm just going to talk about the predictions, but like I said, don't worry. I know the Golden Globes are going to be coming up soon, so we're going to be talking about predictions of that and reactions to that and how that affects the award show, and then PGAs. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, and there's not going to be just predictions every single video. There are going to be different segments, but as of right now, I'm just going to group a couple of predictions together, and I thought these two worked well: Best Original Screenplay and Best Adapted Screenplay. So jumping over to Best Original Screenplay, my first pick is going to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, written by Quentin Tarantino.
In this town, that can all change like that.
Hey! You're Rick fucking Dalton. Don't you forget it.
Now, I talked about this on the Best sort of Clear Frontrunners episode, where I thought that this was sort of a clear frontrunner in this section, at the very least of getting nominated, and I still feel that way, mostly because Quentin Tarantino has been nominated 3 times for writing and has won 2 of them, including his most recent one for Django Unchained in 2012. So I think that this is a movie that almost is guaranteed to be nominated, and I think is in the lead as of right now because of how things have sort of been playing out. Some people don't really believe in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It has sort of been falling. You know, some people are more impressed by something like Parasite may get a lot of wins, and you know, The Irishman's sort of the new flashy thing because it's come out recently. But I think still people still will enjoy Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that they'll want to reward Tarantino, expecting this to get, you know, multiple nominations. So if they're not going to nominate him for Best Director, say they save that for Martin Scorsese, they always have like to sort of reward the top 3 to 4 movies. So I think that they'll sort of give Tarantino the Best Screenplay Award here because he's always been seen as a writer. Now, some people think Marriage Story can come out and sort of surprise, but I do want to say, after seeing both the movies, it does help to say that, you know, this is a category that has historically always been the most original screenplay. Movies like Get Out or Her win this, even though they're sort of, they didn't get nominated in other sections or they didn't get any other wins. You know, Get Out and Her, those were its only wins for screenplay. But that's because those had really 2 both unique ideas. The dialogue was really great, and for Her, for example, it was very romantic, and Get Out, it was funny and witty, and but also, you know, sort of scary and very socially relevant. So they really like to reward the films that have the most original idea, the most original dialogue, and sort of the noticeable features. A lot of times I'm not that interested in something like structure unless it's something like a Memento, where it's, you know, or Pulp Fiction, where it's, you know, very sort of deconstructing of the structure. Most of the time it's the things that are visible. It's the dialogue, it's the funny lines, and it's just sort of the overall story, which I think helps Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. They're really the set pieces in the film are these dialogue scenes. That's what Quentin Tarantino is known for. So while I think this is a guaranteed nomination, right now I have it in the front because even if you say buy the narrative that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is struggling a bit, I think they're going to want to give Tarantino this because it's maybe the last chance they give it to him, because he's only potentially making one other film after this. So there's a lot of things to consider in that sense. But right now I have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the front lead. My next pick is going to be Marriage Story by Noah Baumbach. While Quentin Tarantino is seen as a writer, Noah Baumbach is also seen as a writer. His sort of most common comparison has been someone like Woody Allen, the sort of New York sort of neurotic comedy, I guess you would say. But this film is very much emotional in the sense it does have sort of these really great set pieces. There's funny bits with a razor. It's sort of one of the standout comedic set pieces of the film. There are some comedic moments, despite it being a very heavy sort of emotional divorce drama. But it's definitely, I think, more of the divorce drama side than it is sort of the kooky sort of Meyerowitz story or Mistress America side, or the Francis Ha side. It is sort of its own beast in that sense, and I'm not exactly sure people are going to be walking away from that movie being like, oh, remember, this incredible line. I think they're going to remember certain set pieces, of course, but really they're going to walk away thinking, wow, that's an emotionally devastating film. The performances are so great. Or I think with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they're going to really love the film itself and sort of the pieces of dialogue. Remember when this line or that line or the final line set piece, whatever. It really sort of makes you blown away at the end, I think. That's maybe just a personal opinion. But as much as this category is given to sort of original, quote-unquote original, really, movies, this is also a category that can be politicized very easily. Oftentimes the Best Picture winner also gets the Best Screenplay win. So if, say something like Jojo Rabbit surprises in Best Adapted Screenplay, and then Quentin Tarantino gets in for here, are either one of them going to win Best Picture, or maybe they want to give it to The Irishman? They have been liking to spread the awards in recent years, so that could actually be a case for Marriage Story. If Laura Dern, say, doesn't get in for Best Supporting Actress, or they want to reward Noah Baumbach, they give him the award here because, of course, like I said, he is sort of seen as a writer as well. So it does have funny lines, but I'm not exactly sure it's going to sort of overtake something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Of course, that depends based on how we see the nominations, based on how we see the love. But right now, Marriage Story, I think, because it has these great set pieces, because Noah Baumbach is seen as a writer, and because it's such a strong movie, it's in that number 2 slot. Now to the number 3 slot, I'm going to go with Parasite. This is a film also written by the director Bong Joon-ho, but also has a co-writing credit, and it's a film that I think is going to be really well liked at the Academy, and it's going to be a category that, let's say, it doesn't get any acting nominations. Song Kang-ho is probably the best chance, but say it doesn't get any. Well, then I think that if people really like the film, they're going to reward it in other categories that they feel more comfortable in. Something like a screenplay, something like a cinematography, or a production design. More of these technical categories. So that really helps the chances that if it doesn't get the acting love, people still really like the movie, so they want to reward the technical elements, which in this case screenplay would be. It also helps that it's a very high concept film, similar to sort of like a Get Out. It uses its high concept for comedy, but also some horror and some dark elements, and really incredible sort of social commentary on class inequality. There's so many elements going on here because it just works on so many different levels. There are great set pieces like something in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This could be theoretically a dark horse surprise, but right now I think Bong Joon-ho for director is probably the highest likelihood of him actually getting a win there. That being said, I think they're still going to really appreciate the high concept aspect, which helps in terms of the screenplay category. And even though it's a foreign film, something like Roma also got nominated before. So if the film is really liked, they'll still nominate foreign film, even though the dialogue, you're still reading the dialogue, and sometimes that maybe doesn't work as well. But the sort of setup and the concept of the film is enough, I think, to be just an incredible achievement, and one that deserves to get nominated for Best Screenplay. Another nomination I want to talk about is The Farewell. We're going to sort of deem this the A24 slot. This is the indie hit of the summer, the sort of weird film that has a really incredible idea, and that the screenplay is really sort of driving of it. I'm thinking of films like First Reformed, The Lobster. These are films that, of course, given out by or distributed, by A24, that got the Best Screenplay nomination, and they're sort of the weird movie, I guess you would say. They're sort of the unique movie of the year, and which is why I actually really like this category a lot each year, because they nominate films that don't get any other nominations, but really appreciate these smaller films that have unique ideas, that maybe don't have as big of a budget, and really sort of support independent films here. And The Farewell has been doing well, has done well at the box office in the summer, like I said. Zhao Shuzhen, I think, is going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Awkwafina, I think, is going to get nominated for Best Lead Actress. And the film has to do with its concept and its screenplay. If you don't know, it's not spoilers, but the central plot of the film is that Awkwafina's character, her grandmother, has sort of stage 4 cancer, and she has 3 months to live, but they're not going to tell her, and they're going to use this fake wedding as a way to sort of say their goodbyes without her knowing it. It's sort of a Chinese tradition that people like to do, at least as it was explained in the movie. And that really creates an incredible weight behind every single word. Every single word has a dual meaning, where there's something that they're saying, but there's different going on in their face. So the screenplay has to do a lot with it. Also written by the director Lulu Wang, who's been doing a lot of campaign, and she's an incredible, charming figure. So it seems like if they like her, they're going to reward her. You know, it's not strong enough of a film to give her director, but I can very easily see them nominating a best screenplay here. It just seems like it fits really well. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, this fits as a very well sort of really critically loved screenplay category that sort of there's just A24 slot, we'll say, every single year. I think that the Farewell takes it this year. And then my final nomination is going to be kind of a hard one, but I'm ultimately going with Bombshell. This is a film that's been compared to something like Vice or The Big Short, a politically conscious but still sort of funny and in some parts emotionally devastating element. Has incredible performances, which, you know, the performances, they need great dialogue to do those performances. It's also notable here that all of my other nominees were written by the director, or in Bong Joon-ho's case, co-written by the director. This was the only film that I picked because it wasn't written by the director Jay Roach. It was actually written by the writer Charles Randolph. So I think that, you know, whether it be cinematography or screenplay or editing, I think a lot of times, because the cinematographers nominate the cinematography category and the screenwriters nominate the screenplay category, sometimes they put a little bit of their own personal bias into it. Sometimes they don't want to nominate the best director. Excuse me, they don't want to nominate the director of the movie writing their own movie, sort of a writer-director, because in some cases it sort of sees as, you know, them taking their jobs away. They want to see, you know, there's a screenplay, there's a screenwriter, and there's a director, and there's two different things, and there's going to be jobs. And if I want to be a screenwriter and I don't want to become a director, you know, that's not sort of the future. Even though there's certain respects, of course, to in a writer-director, this still helps because there's an individual writer in Charles Randolph, which sort of gives it its unique feel, but still separates the writer and the director. That's a little thing that we may want to watch out for, but there could be a scenario where all 5 are writer-directors, but I think that's a little bit unlikely, so I think Bombshell sneaks in here. I also believe in the strength of the film. I think it's going to get 4 nominations, including, you know, maybe winning something like makeup and hairstyling. So there's, you know, we never know with that category. That's always all over the map, but it is still notable that I sort of believe in the strength of the film, which is why I give it to Farewell or Parasite or Bombshell. Ultimately, the strength of the film sort of can rise up, or it's maybe we haven't nominated this movie, we really like this movie, so we'll give it the one nomination. Like I said, this category is very in flux as of right now. In some possible contenders, I mentioned Honey Boy at the top of the video. That could sort of maybe sneak in as a really, really dark horse surprise because of the success it's been experiencing these past few weeks. But the sort of obvious contender, I think, right now is Pain and Glory from Pedro Almodovar. This is a filmmaker that they really like. They've given him Best Foreign Film a few times and nominated him before, of course, Banderas. And like I said, Pedro Almodovar was the director of the film, also wrote the film, so writers may be sort of scared away from that. And then another possible contender I want to talk about is Knives Out. This is maybe sort of a personal pick of mine because, you know, it's a classic whodunit. You know, it's entertaining, it's thrilling, you never know what's going to happen. It's incredibly dialogue driven, which theoretically should get in, right? But it seems like it's more of a commercial play than it is an Oscar one. It seems that they're really sort of going for the Christmas audience, even though it's coming out to, you know, well, I guess it's the Thanksgiving audience. So that's an element that we have to watch out for. But I think that unfortunately this is still going to be a commercial play, even though it's a great sort of dialogue-driven movie. It might just slip out, unfortunately. So now jumping over into the best adapted screenplay predictions, my front runner right now is actually going to be Jojo Rabbit.
I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
Aber dann kamst du.
When I was your age, I had an imaginary friend.
Got me in so much trouble.
So my sort of argument maybe applies similar to what I talked about in the Best Director category. I believe in the strength of Jojo Rabbit. I think the Audience People's Choice Award is a great, the TIFF Audience People's Choice Award, which rewarded Green Book last year, which did very well. The year before that, it's People Awards outside Ebbing, Missouri. A couple years before that, was Room, which also did very well. I mean, and even Surprise with something like a Lenny Abraham direction. I think that that category is actually very addictive, and I think people will really enjoy Jojo Rabbit. And I think that that's really sort of a testament to the strength of the film. And I think that this is easier to get in than Best Director because it's of course split between original and adapted. I'm not exactly sure a lot of people know the book. It's not sort of a classic book, but what it does have is Taika Waititi's sort of signature dialogue, his signature style, his witty humor, his really unique sense and direction and look and imprint on the film. I think people will appreciate. I think it could go two different ways. It could be a divisive film, but divisives usually help with your nominations. So it could be It's a Beautiful Life, where it's a very sort of really acclaimed film, or it could be The Day the Clown Cried, where it's Jerry Lewis's Nazi comedy that's been locked into a closet and never be seen because it's so horrible and so insensitive. But I think that right now I don't want to go too into it, just because I think, like I said in the director video, Taika Waititi has unique style, he has unique dialogue, he has unique comedy, and if you like that, you really like that, and I think that sort of love and that passion will reward it here. And then, of course, the next pick will be the sort of obvious possible spoiler in The Irishman. Now, this was not written by Martin Scorsese. This was written by Steve Zalian. So, like I said, in the original category, this category can also be politicized in terms of spreading love out. So, say Quentin Tarantino gets director, and then Noah Baumbach gets Marriage Story for Best Writer, and then, we'll say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood gets Best Picture. Well, they'll want to nominate Irishman for some art because they really like it. They probably can't do it for Best Lead Actor or Best Supporting Actor, so they go over here for Best Adapted Screenplay. Perfect, right? Well, not necessarily, because Martin Scorsese didn't write it here. And I think Martin Scorsese is reteaming with De Niro, his sort of imprint, he's defined the gangster genre, and now he's looking back and reflecting on it in sort of a different melancholy way as an older man. I think he's sort of the star of the movie in a lot of senses. So they'll want to reward Martin Scorsese again. And so that's why I think he's going to get in for Best Director, and why I think maybe this category can be left to the side and be rewarded to a film that they really like, which I believe is Jojo Rabbit, and has sort of maybe a more obvious screenplay than something like The Irishman. It's long. I mean, maybe some people will appreciate the epicness of it, or some people sort of be bored by it and won't really recognize certain really beautiful, I think really beautiful pieces of dialogue in here because they're not as flashy as something like the comedic one-timers and one-liners of Jojo Rabbit. But it's incredibly, really well, it's an epic story of multiple generations. It's well structured in that sense. The movie is very strong. Steve Zalian is the writer who's been nominated multiple times before. So I think they do like him enough, and they like the film enough that I can see this as a win if it's being politicized, but maybe a surprise Jojo Rabbit win, which is why I have Jojo Rabbit in the lead right now, but still this is a strong chance for a nomination. My next nomination is going to be Little Woman, and if you think about it, Little Woman, the argument I sort of just made for Jojo Rabbit and Taika Waititi, they love Taika Waititi, he gets in for director, but he maybe doesn't win director, they want to give him a reward, boom, they give him screenplay, easy. That a theory can also apply to Greta Gerwig for Little Woman, right? Because say they like Little Woman better than Jojo Rabbit, and they give Greta Gerwig that sort of last director slot, and Lady Bird didn't win anything. They'll really love Little Woman, right? So they'll give her this based on adapting an acclaimed novel. They really like Greta. They want her to speak. Boom, there we go. It's sort of same. So this could be a surprise win, but right now I feel a little bit more strongly towards Jojo Rabbit than I do for Little Woman. That being said, another sort of factor that will go against is that it will most likely win Best Costume Design, so it will have an Oscar, so they'll have to really want to give Greta Gerwig specifically an Oscar, which sometimes helps, but sometimes it turns into the Grand Budapest Hotel situation where, well, we already gave Grand Budapest Hotel, what was it, 2-3 Oscars. We don't want to give it another one just to hear Wes Anderson talk. We already gave his film multiple Oscars. So this could be a situation where we give it Best Production Design and Best Costume Design. Well, we already gave her film a couple Oscars. Let's give it something like Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit, where we haven't given him any yet. So there are these little sort of theoretical things that people really do think about when casting their votes. But in terms of nominations, she makes this acclaimed novel into a sort of a modern tale. It's not a modern day story. It's not taking place in the modern day, but has very much an adaptation to it. It's not just sort of a direct translation. She does sort of put her own style to it, which the Academy does appreciate. They also really like Greta Gerwig. They, I think, almost gave her the win for Lady Bird in 2017. She got nominated for director for that. That was a really well-loved film. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Little Women do as well as something like Lady Bird, except get a win potentially for Best Adapted Screenplay. And then my next prediction is going to be The Two Popes. This is based off the strength of sort of hot screenwriter as of right now, which is Anthony McCartan. He wrote and was nominated for The Theory of Everything. He wrote Darkest Hour, which he was nominated for, and he wrote Bohemian Rhapsody, which he was not nominated for, but people really like that movie. So when they're going on the campaign, they'll recognize him, they'll really like his movies, including something like Bohemian Rhapsody, even though it wasn't nominated for Best Original Screenplay. He's a writer that sort of has created his own unique style in terms of profiling these real life people, and does it in sort of a unique way. The film has sort of been described as My Dinner with Andre, but with two popes. There are some sort of dramatic elements too, but there are some great sort of funny lines to it. I think this film really works well and positions itself well within the Academy in terms of its older voters, which many of them are. Most of them, I believe around 70% are male. Of course, this is a male-driven film with two male actors that they've seen for a long time that are really well established. I just believe in the strength of this film. I think Anthony McCartan is a well-loved screenwriter, and that will sort of propel The Two Popes as well, sort of its structure of this constant dialogue of religious faith and other elements that go on between Pope Benedict and Pope Francis. And then my final nomination is going to A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. This is a film that I'm super not confident in, and I'm not really confident even in this pick, but it just fits the mold so well. Marielle Heller's previous film, Can You Ever Forgive Me, which I was a champion of, did very well. It got actor and actress and supporting actor, and also got a screenplay nomination. And that movie was about a writer, and this film is about a journalist who develops a relationship with Mr. Rogers. Right now I only have it in two categories, and maybe it gets a third one, but for something potentially like a makeup and hairstyling, or even a surprise maybe costume design. But that being said, I think that it has sort of a unique structure in terms of it looks through Mr. Rogers' life as almost the film's almost structured like an episode of the show. There's elements of this sort of dialogue between Mr. Rogers and the journalist, played by Matthew Rhys, which is sort of the real solid foundation of the film, I would say, and really the great moments of the film. So that really helps it. Like I said, Marielle Heller has been, her film has been known before for Best Adapted Screenplay, so I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't believe she wrote, I believe she only directed, and I don't think she wrote Can You Ever Forgive Me either. I believe that was Nicole Holofcener and another writer, unfortunately, I forget the name. But I think that this sort of is really positioned well in that sense. In terms of my possible contenders, my first one's going to be Joker. I talked about in the Dark Horse predictions video that I think Todd Fields for Best Director could sneak in, because I think people really respect what he did in terms of being such a bold film. So maybe he doesn't get in for director, maybe he gets in for writing. A little bit of a theme here. Maybe they just appreciate the film they really like, and maybe surprises come Oscar night, and gets in for Best Adapted Screenplay. But unfortunately, it's not adapted on really anything. It's not adapted based on a singular comic book. It could be really seen and appreciated if it was this one and done sort of movie, that this is our Joker movie and we're not going to do anything else. We're not going to have a sequel. Now they're in talks of a sequel, so maybe that sort of hurts its pureness, I guess you would say, maybe. I think if they like Todd Phillips, they'll give him the reward here, but it doesn't have a certain maybe flashy in-your-face screenplay, which ultimately I think hurt its chances. And then another contender, I'll say Just Mercy, because it's this legal drama that has a really great structure and really powerful lines, but it's really a long shot. I really sort of group this into something like Dark Waters, which has sort of come out in limited selections, again, okay reviews, or good reviews, I'd say, but not maybe Dark Waters is a movie that is going to ultimately crack through. I think The Laundromat maybe would be able to sort of break through and could surprise here. Written by Scott Z. Burns, who also wrote and directed The Report, which is sort of an Oscar movie. So if they like him and he's very present, they'll want to maybe give him a nomination for Laundromat. Who knows? There's lots of different options. But there's a lot of writers and there's a lot of screenplays, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy sort of my analysis and sort of you really understand the ideas that this can be politicized in terms of giving out awards, but it can also just be sort of the most original or the best adapter, or you know, a lot of times these fringe movies will ultimately get in. So that's why I always really like these categories. But they're always incredibly hard to predict and give me a lot of stress. So you never really know. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below. Let me know your predictions. Let me know your thoughts on the video. That's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, stay tuned.